And 82 members of the Maine legislature signed a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin to, quote, express their horror and demand accountability in the wake of the fatal shooting of Johann Sebastian Duran Guerrero by an ICE agent in Biddeford this month. The letter, written by House Speaker Ryan Fecteau and Senate President Matty Daughtry, reads in part, quote, the reckless behavior of ICE agents and the subsequent lethal consequences of their actions are not just endangering our neighbors and communities, they are eroding confidence in law enforcement at all levels. This does not serve to make any Mainer or American safer. It only sows fear and terror among good, hardworking people. They also urged the agency to cooperate with state investigations into the shooting and added their demands for ICE reform coexist alongside their support of removing dangerous convicted criminals.